Welcome back, everyone. Carl Rosen here, oculoplastics, neuro-ophthalmology in Anchorage, Alaska. I should say happy Cinco de Mayo today for our friends that celebrate. My partner, John.
Hi, I'm Jon Ditkoff. I've been in practice for 30 years, general ophthalmology in northern New Jersey. I specialize in cornea. Both Carl and I met each other at Albert Einstein when we did our training, where we saw lots of eye trauma. So today we're going to be talking about eye trauma. And I should also say happy Greek Easter today.
You got it, John. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay. Today we have a special guest, someone who I know very well from years of training, Jarid Symens. Jarid is from Homer, Alaska, grew up in Anchor Point, Air Force veteran. Jarid has a lot of combat experience, and today's topic is going to be about combat-related ocular injuries, the importance to recognize them, the importance to prevent them, and if necessary, treat them, either with an ophthalmologist, an ENT, plastics, oral surgery, depending on orthopedics, depending on what area of the body is damaged. We're going to specifically focus in on ocular injuries in boxing and MMA. Although, as I mentioned, wrestling, judo, Muay Thai, JuJitsu also are prone to injuries. The longer you train, it's guaranteed that you're going to get some kind of injury. But I would like to introduce Jarid Symens. Jarid, take it away.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show, guys. I really appreciate that, and a great deal of humility. I was a little redneck from Anchor Point, Alaska, and kind of went around the world in some interesting ways. And I'm really thankful for you guys having me on. So I appreciate it. So it's nice to have
It's great to have
an
Jarid.
opportunity to talk to you guys about this type of stuff. So thank you for having me on.
I met Jarid way back at Gracie Baja. I started JuJitsu at Gracie Baja in Anchorage, Alaska. Went to get a black belt under Ted Stickle, Nelson Montero, that lineage. Nelson's from Rio in Brazil. And I just really don't want to make it about me, but I competed a fair amount. My heyday was at the US Open and in California, and also at the Pan Ams. Is really when I peaked for 15 minutes. And then I was on a rapid decline, but wrestled in high school, touch in college. Actually, John, go ahead, John. Tell us about your wrestling experience.
Yeah, so I wrestled throughout my junior high school years. Then I wrestled for 2 years at City College in New York, which was Division III. So it was something that kept me busy, but it was never really put all the energy into it the way you guys did. I mean, but it was a great activity for me, great for my head. And like one of the things was self-defense. I mean, I was living in New York, so I knew I could defend myself, which I did occasionally with wrestling. So it's a really good experience.
Yeah, there's nothing like a single leg or a double leg takedown.
One other thing, I know you mentioned a bunch of self-defense. Krav Maga. Have you guys been involved in that?
Yeah, sure. We have a Krav Maga in Anchorage.
So we should add that as another way to get an eye injury, but also wonderful for the head, wonderful for the body, great self-defense. There's a local guy here in Ramsey, Krav Maga, who has taught me a lot, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan. Boss Rutan, I'm a big fan of Boss Rutan. The MMA is just a fun character in MMA, but he's really big into Krav Maga, and that's what got my interest into it. And I've tried so many various martial arts, and I started late. So I started at 27 years old. I had no martial art experience. I'd never been in a fight before, didn't wrestle, didn't do nothing. I didn't start till 27. And when I got into it is more or less like, I was a big fan. And one of them was like, I enjoy Krav Maga and the concepts and everything of close quarter combat. And Boss Rutan is the person that first got me interested into really going into that. I highly recommend Krav Maga for anybody when it comes to self-defense standpoint.
Right. The big thing, as I understand with Krav Maga, is aggression. It's really not a sport. You don't get points. You don't get medals for it. But let's move on. And really, what we're going to focus in on is there's a journal article in Ophthalmic, Plastic, and Reconstructive Surgery, January, February, #1 of this year, 2024, by Chang et al., Eye Trauma and Mixed Martial Arts and Boxing. And I wanted to mention that this article really reported very succinctly and nicely what can happen in an MMA and boxing match. And they found eye trauma represented 48% of boxing injuries, 26% of MMA injuries, mostly with periocular lacerations being the most common eye injury in both combat sports. Orbital fractures represented 17.6% of the injuries in MMA and 3.2% in boxing. Retinal injuries were found between 2 and 3%, and retinal injuries can be devastating: a retinal tear, retinal detachment. So boxing has a higher rate of eye injuries, but MMA injuries are more likely to need an ophthalmologist. And MMA contestants also have a higher rate of orbital fractures. And I wanted to show a picture of both of these, an orbital fracture followed by a ruptured globe. So here you can see a right-sided orbital contusion. We call it periocular or periorbital ecchymosis after a punch, usually after a punch, particularly in MMA or boxing. And then down here, you see a floor medial wall fracture, and this is called an orbital blowout fracture. As we all know, you do not want to blow your nose with these, right, Jared?
Yeah, whenever you do that, because the sinus cavity has been, it's been separated. So anything that's in the sinuses will actually come out of that side of that eye. So there's nothing preventing anything to shoot out of there. So when they blow, they might be trying to blow it out their nose, and it's end up coming right out there, outside the face.
Right. So there's a great example of that. Actually, Jared and I spoke about this morning. Kell Brooks, I think, Gennady Golovkin, I think it was 2013. He went to the corner and Kell Brooks blew his nose and he had orbital ecchymosis or emphysema, where the air gets trapped. You can actually compress the blood vessels and lose your eyesight. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to blow your nose. And after an orbital fracture, you don't want to use a straw. You want to sneeze with your mouth open. So you just want to prevent any of that transmission of air to the orbital space, which is now they're open, and usually they're sequestered or separate.
Interesting thing about this picture is that when God created us, he put these eyelids and bones around your eyeball to protect it. So fortunately, this person that got kicked in the eye or punched in the eye, that was the intention. So you'd rather have a blowout fracture or a lot of swelling of your eyelid than a ruptured globe. But now you're going to show the ruptured globe. I've seen patients where they came in after a fight where one eye looked all bruised like that. And the problem was in the other eye, because the other eye, the trauma went right to the eyeball and there was no protection. And that was the eye with the retina problem.
So who had a ruptured globe from MMA? Do you remember? Was that Alan Belcher?
Alan Belcher had one. So Alan Belcher had one, and it was against fight against, I believe, Michael Bisping, and then he had a recurring from it afterwards. So there's several eye injuries that kind of led into that happening to him. But Alan Belcher was victim of it, and put him on the shelf for a long time. He actually had a temporary retirement for a long time, for almost 5 to 8 years. He came back and has fought again, but it definitely put him down for the count for a while.
Right. Did Bisping have a ruptured globe too?
He had several different things. I do believe it was that also he had detached retina, and like the eye is completely gone for Michael Bisping now. He is missing an eye from combat sports. So even in last couple of fights that he had, even the fight that he won the middleweight championship, he was missing one eye. People didn't realize he was out there literally with one eye. So
right. So he wears an ocular prosthesis that
yes,
looks very good, but without two eyes, you don't have stereo, and your distance, the way you judge range is really compromised, and you don't have stereo. So your world is flat. But right here, you can see
plus, I mean, he's still fighting, which is putting his only eye at risk.
We can see a ruptured globe, and this is the iris poking out through the laceration in the cornea, and at the edge of the cornea, it's called the limbus. So this is popping through because of inside pressure. And this is what happens when you get a finger poke to an eye. Again, it happens in MMA because in boxing, you have gloves. So that's not going to happen as easily. So this is one of the dangers. We actually had, Jared and I worked out at Gracie Baja, as I mentioned before, doing jiu-jitsu, and Jared, do you remember we had a guy there who had keratoconus and he had his cornea ruptured. He needed a transplant. I don't want to mention his name, but he was a Polynesian kid, really strong, short. Do you remember that at all?
Yes, I do remember.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. And I remember going into it, and veteran, a guy that's fought a good deal. And it definitely put kind of a halt to that, but also is, you know, danger of him losing his vision completely. So yeah, I'm familiar.
Here's a picture of Jared. Jared, do you want to describe this to us?
Well, this was actually my second MMA fight, and it was actually one of my favorites. And I took a little bit of punishment in this. So this was one because I started late. You know, I didn't start till I was 27 in any of this stuff. So it's I would say about 30 in this picture here. And this was great because I had certain things. I wasn't really trying to do too much of an MMA career. It was more about learning martial arts and stuff. And this was also about trying to do application. I had my first MMA fight, ended in 1 minute and 6 seconds. I finished the guy pretty quickly. But I really wanted to experience a war, and I want to experience what it was like to go through a battle and actually ask the question is like, if I had to fight for my life, could I do it? And those type of things. This was what this one was. This was my second MMA fight. This was all 3 rounds. The guy hurt me, I hurt him. It was a beautiful display of honorable violence. And at the end was having fun at the with going through that experience, and I definitely answered the question. If I need to defend myself, I definitely will answer that call. But that is just a really good memory.
Jared, tell us about this picture right here of you.
Well, this is a scared kid from Anchor Point, Alaska, that's never had a fight before, and this was my very, very first fight. Never had any type of fight, any type of fisticuff in my entire life. Had gotten out of the Air Force. I was working as a contractor for the military, and I lost a bunch of weight. I used to weigh 270 pounds, and then this was my first fight. We used to getting bullied, but I decided to actually get on the other side. But no, this was in Germany. My very first Muay Thai fight. I trained for only like 4 months, and my coach threw me in there, and now it's kind of snowballed into everything else. So now this is all I do.
So this is really not about me,
sweet.
but yeah, but here we go. So this is Jared and I at Jared's club.
Yeah.
And Jared's been coaching me and my kids. As I mentioned, Jared and I met back at the Jiu-Jitsu club, the Gracie Baja Jiu-Jitsu club Bob Grunner owned, and Ted Stickle was the coach. So yeah, Jared and I have been doing this for a long time. My dad boxed in the Bronx when he was a kid, so I enjoyed it. And but yeah, I'm just a rookie and having fun with Jared. We actually worked out and sparred this morning. I hurt my elbow, but here's a picture.
And we put you back together, though. We put you back together.
That's right.
I think it's successfully. We put you back together.
That's right. Here's a picture of me at the Pan Ams with Ricky Shivers.
Wow, very cool.
The Iceman, and Bob Grunner, who owns Gracie Baja. I was a brown belt in this. This is a while ago.
It's good you have the year there. I was going to guess it was like 1930.
I know, but this was a lot of fun. It was fun to go with these guys, yeah. But it can only last for so long. The body sort of wears down, but I'm still having fun. Had a great time. Great bunch of guys. Talk about prevention. Now, Jared, you're a boxing coach. You're a Muay Thai coach. You have your own club, your own gym. You have a bunch of clients. What, besides wearing headgear, what's your protocol for keeping people safe? And, you as a ref as well. I mean, you've done lots and lots of refereeing for MMA and boxing. And so give us your thought processes to, prevent these kids from getting hurt.
So from the training perspective, you always want to make sure that you're bringing people up and making sure that the skill level is matching the intensity that they're trying to go. And that's always a really important thing. A lot of people sometimes dive in too quick, and that's where a lot of injuries happen, because you can't learn how to prevent injuries from happening to yourself. You might be able to dish out punishment, but you can't receive punishment. So teaching people how to defend themselves appropriately, how to parry, block, and roll with shots and do different things the appropriate way is some of the most important parts to get down, and that helps prevent it. The other things are the protective equipment. You always gonna have your protective equipment that use headgear, mouthpiece. Make sure you're using good gloves and such like that, making sure that you're prepared to receive that type of punishment and training. Now, when it comes into the competition, you know, you really have to make sure that you're just not actually taking the concussive force. As things goes, it rolls off you with you, and you're actually able to take the punishment and let it go. Now, if you take that shot in there and direct, and that's where the damage happens. So learning how to quote unquote roll with the punches or roll with the strike or use the strike for your advantage, doing things like that, that's where you can prevent a lot of stuff. But if you're not, you're taking a lot of punishment and you receive that, and it shows damage on your body. And if you're not learning to protect the areas and cover the vital areas like eyes, chin, jaw, temple, you know, places of the body, the liver, what will end up happening is you get exploited and hurt and injured. And so learning to prevent that is mostly from the defensive side. But, you know, when it comes to training, learning how to set the right parameters for the right amount of intensity that's going to be helpful for trying to improve the person's skill set. So always thinking about trying to progress yourself, not trying to see how tough you can be. So always trying to think more of my technical mindset, and then also make sure that you're trying to prepare with good protective equipment as well.
That's great.
To
You know, it's
clarify
interesting.
for me, so in an MMA match, for example, do you
Mhm.
wear protective headgear, eyewear, nothing?
Nothing. We
Nothing.
go in there, you're actually going to have just 4-ounce gloves, and they're going to be fingerless gloves, so you can actually grapple and do different things. So you're actually going to have not even things on there. That's the reason you have the globe and actually having the perforation of that. And actually, when people get eye pokes, that's what one of the images that Carl had up is. Then that's one of the problems we have with those open hand gloves, people extending their fingers. We have rules as an referee, you're supposed to have fingers up or a closed fist. You can't even extend your fingers out. It's already a foul. Even with just extension, it doesn't even have to have it in there. But that's with MMA, with the danger of a little bit more, and the smaller gloves can fit right into the orbital of itself and cause more damage. With the 16-ounce gloves, I was gonna say, Carl, I thought I had maybe my gloves in here from sparring earlier, but I guess they're in the way back. So, but yeah, when you have that, you can cover a lot more, and you're not able to get it in. And plus, when it hits, it's not going to fit into the ridges of this and create as much damage. With the small MMA gloves, which are 4-ounce gloves, they fit right in here, and so they cause more damage across that orbital, and plus more lacerations because it has a little bit harder edges than a boxing gloves. Boxing gloves is usually 8 to 12 ounces for competition, 16 for training. MMA, they use 4 ounces minimum or minimal. There's even more extreme sport now with bare knuckle fighting, where they don't even have anything on their knuckles, but that's a boxing thing. But yeah, there's a lot more damage more potential danger and potential damage that happens in MMA because the lack of protective equipment. In
Have they ever
training, we have
considered?
headgear and do things like that.
Yeah, have they ever considered having them wear protective? I mean, I get it. It's
We
exciting.
have,
You want, but it's almost like you want people to win the match, but not injure people. It's two different things. Or do they
yeah,
want?
and you can do that. Yeah, it's when you actually train a lot, you can actually prevent a lot. So I actually control, and then Carl and I spar all the time. We literally get in fist fights every time we meet. So Carl, thank you very much for the fist fights all the time. Learning how to actually diffuse and do these things the right way, you can prevent a lot of damage. And a lot of it is really physics, and it's really geometry, rolling things off and doing things like that. You're not receiving as much stuff. So you can do this and without as much damage, but that takes that years of training to get the expert ways to going into. Most people in the beginning, they need to have the patience to develop the skills to protect themselves. And usually they'll go in there too early, too fast, and get themselves hurt.
Right.
What happens with the institution into the sport, though, when it comes to the sport, it actually, with headgear on, and they've found this with Olympics. I've been a USA boxing coach for a long time, and shout out to David Carey and Alaska Boxing Academy, amazing youth program. But they even remove headgear because you get more concussions actually with headgear on, because you can take more punishment versus a single shot. One shot, you go out, less likely chance of a concussion versus repeated blows over and over and over. And you're learning to minimize that. You know, shaking the brain, it can be that. Yes, you're going to save off lacerations and things like that of the face, but there's still going to be the rattle of the brain. So learning how to minimize those type of things from that comes from a skill level, and depends on style too. Some people like to be more of a marauder going forward, but there is sacrifice to that. So it's just like sadly, that comes with sacrifice. With great accomplishments, there's always has to be sacrifice. And in fighting, there's no bigger sacrifice. It's dire physical consequences with high problem solving the whole time. So you have to be high level thinking, and the whole time you have dire physical consequences the whole time. So it's quite the game, but there's ways to minimize the amount of damage that you take if you know how to operate the right way. I've give an example. I spar 7 days a week. I don't take any damage. I haven't had a concussion in years. I have my head checked, things like that. I don't. It's just learn how to do it the right way. And then training at a tempo that matches your intensity that you'd like to keep, that you can actually have a longevity, and always concentrating on longevity, work on different aspects of the body, health and things like that, replacing nutrients the right way, better sleep, all these things. A lot of it I found through this stuff. Before, I was a really unhealthy person until I discovered fighting. It forced me to be healthier because of like, hey, somebody's gonna beat me up. It's a better advantage to be a little bit healthier. So I had to quest to actually find that stuff out. All these elements, protecting the brain in so many different ways, working on cognitive therapies in different ways, just trying to make that as a way to minimize as much. But learning how to really protect yourself, you have to receive and understand what it is. A lot of people think they can do it conceptually, but if you're not used to it, there's a reason I can spar 7 days a week, because of the fact is like, I know all the possible outcomes. And when people are coming at me, I can control situations, even at those dire situations. And you can get through that training depending on the intensity levels. You don't have to always go intense. Once you understand the danger of where the intensities are, then you can minimize how much damage can happen to you if you're aware of it. So it's just awareness of this. And that's where martial arts is a beautiful thing. Sorry, I'm rambling on, gentlemen.
No, you're doing great.
That's good.
Defensively responsible is key. Keeping your hands up.
Yeah.
There's they talk about the Mexican style, coming forward and brawling. That's not.
I like fighting those guys. They make my job easy. They're bringing my lunch to me. So
Right.
Thank you.
Right. But, that has more wear and tear. But a guy like Lomachenko, that's always moving around, he's got great footwork, Bivol, he's in and out. Canelo has a high guard. We saw that last night against Munguia. I mean, they're
amazing
defensively responsible. And so that increases longevity, reduces, the damage you can to your noggin, which is really important. But as we mentioned, MMA have a high MMA, just in summary, MMA contestants have a higher rate of orbital fractures, face and body trauma than boxing. But boxing does come with a lot of lacerations. You can see that through a headbutt or through the twisting motion of the punch, even though you're using, padded hands or padded gloves. I'm glad we touched on prevention. I did want to talk about treatment. Treatment of an orbital blood fracture, you really need an ophthalmologist or a plastic surgeon or an ENT surgeon to repair that blowout fracture. The blowout fracture is the most common. The medial wall is next. Lateral wall, you don't hardly see, and the roof, you really almost never see. And that requires an operation. Usually it's 20 to 30 minutes with an implant. And that typically takes care of the problem. If the tissue gets trapped, it will cause double vision, causes numbness in the face. And again, do not blow your nose. Do not blow your nose, because that will cause orbital emphysema and could potentially lead to a cessation of blood flow, and then it will impair your vision. Jared, I know you have an upcoming fight, and I want to show that image. Did want to show off and showcase Jared's upcoming fight on May 11th against Cody Rice. We are confident Jared will come out victorious, and he will be defensively responsible, as we talked about. I also should mention, and John pointed this out, that not all orbital fractures require repair, surgical repair, not every single one. But if you do have double vision, if you are entrapped, if it hurts to move your eye, some other components, if you have numbness in your face and your teeth, that may, or you have the eye looks sunken, it's called enophthalmos, because the orbit has expanded and the tissue has sunken into the sinus. That does suggest that repair by an ophthalmologist or an ENT surgeon is prudent. So having said that, this has been a great discussion, a little different. Combat sports, I don't think, get enough attention with regards to ophthalmic and ocular injuries. But John, was there anything that you wanted to say?
No, that was a great summary. Very interesting stuff.
And Jared, we're thrilled to have you. Jared is he's a killer. He's really, really a phenomenal boxer. Strong, tough guy.
Really nice guy.
Yeah. Very, very strong jujitsu as well. Just, lean, wiry, strong guy. And I'm thrilled to have him as a coach. And I'm thrilled to have him, teach my kids too. So it's been a real pleasure. Jared, do you want to say anything? You want to promote your fight or say where people can find you?
Well, sure. You can find me on YouTube at Coach Grizzly. Everybody affectionately calls me Coach Grizzly. And then the fight's going to be on May 11th, so next weekend. It's a fun story. I wasn't supposed to fight. I actually do the color commentating for it, so I do the color for that. And I'll give a little bit of story. It's kind of fun. I like the story because I like to live a little out loud. But Cody Rice and I have fought twice before, so this is gonna be our third match. We fought once in Muay Thai kickboxing, then in MMA. Now we're gonna fight in boxing. So this is a boxing match, so it's cool. So I thought that's a really neat one. But what happened was I was trying to find fights for my fighters. I coach a lot of fighters. Nobody was taking fights, and I was like telling the promoter, and it's jokingly, I was saying to the promoter, I says, it doesn't matter. Find me a heavyweight. I weigh 160 pounds. I said, find a heavyweight. I can box anybody, just anybody. But so I said, just find me a heavyweight. I don't care. We can throw me in there. I don't even care about it. Right. So I did that. And I was just kind of jokingly saying that to the promoter, where the promoter, her husband's a fighter and he's fighting on the card. She went and talked back and talked to him and said, it's like, Jared said this, and he asked if I was serious. She came back and asked if I was serious. I said, okay, I'm screw it. If we can't find anybody, you can throw me on the card. I didn't know I was fighting until about 3 days ago. So what ended up happening is I got back a hold of me, and then he says, what if you fought Cody Rice? It's like, well, Cody's my buddy. We fought twice before. I said, just have Cody get a hold of me. So Cody called me later, and Cody's like, hey, Jared, do you want to box? And I'm like, sure, let's box. So now we're on the card trying to help save the card. We lost a couple fights because of injuries leading up into the camp for this promotion. Promotion is an amazing promotion. Melinda and Scott are running a class promotion. It's amazing. We'll have it online. It'll be live streamed from Anchorage, Alaska, the Alaska Airlines Center. After I'm done fighting, I had some demands. Please, if you humor me for a little story.
Go for
so
it.
I told him I'd only fight if they fulfilled a couple demands. This was diva powers. I've never done this. I had to use this. So I want to brag about this. So I had a couple demands. I told to Melinda, the promoter, I'll fight if I still get to do the commentating. So after I'm done fighting, I'm going right to putting back on the mic, and I'm going to commentate right afterwards, because I like, this is only my second time commentating. I enjoyed it the first time. I wanted to make sure I did that. I was going to fight, but I got to commentate. Next, my daughter's my corner man. So my 4-year-old daughter is going to be my corner man. She's coming in. Jazz, her name's Jasmine. She's ready, and she's Coach Jazz, and she's going to come out there. And if she does what I think she's going to do, this is going to be the toughest coach I've ever had to deal with. So I have that. The next thing I tried to get is, my wife got me into karaoke about 3 years ago. I'm 40, got me into karaoke at 37. So I said, I want to sing the national anthem. Sadly, I don't get it at this time because it was already booked, but I get to sing it in August. So because on my 40th birthday, I run a promotion here in Anchorage called Thursday Night Fights that's been around for over 30 years. Jim Patton and Jerry Miller started it. Jerry Miller retired. Jim Patton brought me in. So I've been having fun becoming a promoter. Weird, right? And then on my 40th birthday, I had to bribe somebody to let me to sing, and nobody knew. So my 40th birthday was on one of those events. So I sang the national anthem for the first time then. It's like, so, and it wasn't enough. So I'm going to try a second time in August. So you see me fight here, and you'll see me commentate at this one. So you'll see me get punched in the face, then talk about getting punched in the face. And then you can come back and watch me sing later.
That's beautiful.
Awesome.
And hey, watch out for my daughter. She's mean. I gotta, I gotta make sure I fight good, because hey, I don't want the wrath of Coach Jazz.
Right.
Sorry,
I'll
get off this.
no, that was beautiful.
Thanks for humoring me, guys. I appreciate it.
This was our liveliest YouTube yet.
Sure.
Really appreciate it, Jared. You're the best. And
Thanks, dude.
you don't need any of my luck. Go ahead.
I don't depend on luck, sir. I depend on skill. And Carl, you better put the video of us sparring on this, and I'm gonna find John. John's getting me number, and if he doesn't, John and I are gonna gang up on you.
All right.
So we're and John, I'm gonna toot his horn. I'm gonna toot his horn even more. John, it would take both of us to beat him in grappling. His black belt jujitsu is.
Oh my God. Yeah. No. So really, it's not about me, guys. This is about Jared.
Yeah.
And but thrilled to have you here, everybody.
Yeah.
So glad to have you. We're gonna get Jared back on, and we're gonna talk more about this topic. This is an important topic, just really for anybody who's in one of these 6 combat sports. It's really important. Stay safe, enjoy it, have fun, but be smart about it. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.
Take these guys. Go right. Up and down. There you go. Good job. Look at his right hand up.
We'll be right back.